When my prom date dropped me off at 11 p.m., he noticed something was wrong with my house. What he did next saved my entire family. I'm Maya Chen, I'm 28 now, and I need to tell you about the night that changed everything. If you've ever wondered whether one person can really make a difference, drop those words in the comments because I'm living proof. Hit subscribe if you want to hear how the boy who saved my life was barely holding on to his own. Let me take you back to spring 2014, Sherman, Texas. Population 40,000. Friday night lights, one Dairy Queen, and exactly 0 chances of anything interesting ever happening. I was 17, a junior at Sherman High, invisible in all the ways that matter when you're that age. I wasn't popular, wasn't an athlete, wasn't failing hard enough to get attention from teachers. I was just Maya, the quiet Asian girl in AP chemistry who ate lunch in the library and went straight home every day. Home was a small ranch house on Cypress Street, pale yellow with white shutters, a chain-link fence around the yard. My parents bought it the year before I was born, back when my dad still worked at the Tyson plant and my mom did alterations at the dry cleaner downtown. We had a trampoline in the backyard that was missing half its springs, a basketball hoop with no net, and a garage so full of boxes we hadn't parked a car inside in years. My little brother Marcus was 13, all elbows and Fortnite obsession. My baby sister Lily had just turned 8. Still believed in Santa, still asked me to French braid her hair every morning before school. Dad worked nights now, managing inventory at the distribution center off Highway 75. Mom picked up extra shifts wherever she could. We weren't poor, but we were tired. The kind of tired that settles into a house like dust, covering everything.
I'd never been to a school dance. Never been asked. Never expected to be. My friend group consisted of exactly 2 people, Jennifer, who moved to Dallas after sophomore year, and my cousin Sophie, who went to the Catholic school across town. Prom was 3 weeks away. I'd already told my parents not to waste money on a dress I'd never wear. Then everything changed on a random Tuesday in the cafeteria. I was sitting alone, reading ahead for English, when a shadow fell across my table. I looked up and almost choked on my sandwich. Ethan Sawyer was standing there, tray in hand, looking at me like he'd been searching for someone and just found them.
Ethan Sawyer, starting quarterback, homecoming king, the guy whose name got announced every Friday night over the loudspeaker while the entire town cheered. He had dark blonde hair that fell over his forehead, blue eyes that seemed genuinely kind, and that easy confidence that comes from never doubting whether you belong. "Hey, Maya, right?" he said. His voice was deeper than I expected. "You're in my calc class." I nodded, unable to form actual words. "Cool if I sit?" Before I could answer, he was already sliding into the chair across from me, setting down his tray like we did this every day. Around us, conversation stopped. Heads turned. I felt 100 eyes burning into the back of my neck. "So look," he said, stabbing at his mystery meat with the plastic fork. "I know this is random, but do you have a prom date?" My brain short-circuited. "What? Prom. Do you have a date?" He looked up, met my eyes, and I realized he was nervous. Ethan Sawyer was nervous, asking me to prom. No, I'm not really going." "Would you want to?" "Go, I mean, with me." I stared at him for a solid 10 seconds, waiting for the punchline, waiting for his football buddies to jump out from behind the vending machines with cameras. But his expression stayed open, hopeful even. "Why?" I finally managed. He leaned back, ran a hand through his hair. "Honest answer, because I've been watching you in calc. You're the only person who actually gets derivatives without Mr. Harrison explaining it 5 times. You're smart. You seem real. And I'm tired of going to these things with people who only care about being seen." Something in his voice made me believe him. Or maybe I just wanted to believe him. Okay, I heard myself say. Yeah, okay. His face broke into the kind of grin that probably melted hearts all over Sherman County. Seriously? That's awesome. I'll pick you up at 7? The next 3 weeks were surreal. Ethan started sitting with me at lunch every day. We'd talk about calc homework, terrible cafeteria food, his stress about college recruiting. He told me about the pressure of being the quarterback everyone expected to carry the team to state. I told him about wanting to study engineering, about feeling invisible most days. He listened like my words actually mattered. People started noticing me. Girls who'd never spoken to me suddenly wanted to know where I got my backpack, what perfume I wore, whether Ethan and I were official. I didn't know how to answer that. We weren't dating, he just asked me to prom. But something was forming between us, something that felt more solid than I expected. My mom cried when I told her, happy tears. She took me to the outlet mall in Dallas and we found a dress, midnight blue with tiny crystals across a bodice that caught the light when I moved. Dad took a million pictures of me in it, making me pose in the living room while Marcus complained that I was blocking the TV. Prom night arrived warm and clear. Ethan showed up at exactly 7 in his dad's silver Tahoe, wearing a sharp black suit with a blue tie that matched my dress perfectly. He'd thought of that, coordinated without me even asking. He handed me a corsage, white roses with tiny blue ribbons, and when he slipped it on my wrist, his hands were shaking slightly. "You look beautiful," he said, and the way he said it, I believed him. My parents took approximately 3,000 photos. Dad gave Ethan the standard lecture about driving safe and having me home by midnight. Ethan shook his hand, called him sir, promised to take care of me. Marcus made gagging sounds from the couch. Lily wouldn't stop giggling. The dance was everything I'd imagined, and nothing like it at the same time. The gym was transformed with lights and fabric, trying desperately to look like something other than a gym. Music pounded from speakers stacked near the DJ booth. Ethan's friends welcomed me into their circle like I'd always been there. We danced to everything, fast songs and slow songs, his hands respectful on my waist, my arms around his neck. During a slow song, he leaned close to my ear. "I'm really glad you said yes." "Me too," I whispered back, and meant it more than he'd ever know. Around 10:30, he suggested we leave. "Want to get milkshakes? There's that place on Texoma Parkway that stays open late." We drove through Sherman with the windows down, cool spring air rushing through the Tahoe, pop music playing low on the radio. We ordered chocolate shakes and sat on the parking lot talking about everything and nothing. About his full ride offer to Texas Tech. About my dream of going to UT Austin. About whether aliens were real and why gas station hot dogs tasted better than they had any right to. At 11, he checked his phone. "I should get you home. Promised your dad midnight." The drive back to Cypress Street took 10 minutes. Ethan pulled into my driveway, put the Tahoe in park, and turned to look at me. "Maya, I need to tell you something." My heart stuttered. "Okay."
Tonight was one of the best nights I've had in a long time. You're easy to talk to. You don't expect me to be anyone except who I am. That means more than you know. Ethan, I want to do this again. Not just dances, real dates, movies, dinner, whatever. If you want that too. I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. I want that too. He grinned, relieved, and leaned in. Our first kiss was soft and careful, tasting like chocolate shake and promise. When we pulled apart, he walked me to the door like a gentleman from an old movie. That's when everything changed. Halfway up the driveway, he stopped, his head tilted, brow furrowing. "Do you smell that?" I sniffed. "Smell what?" "Gas. Natural gas." I tried again, focusing. Maybe? It was faint. Could have been nothing. "I
don't think so? But Ethan was already moving, walking quickly toward the side of the house where the gas meter sat behind a bush. He crouched down, and even in the dark, I could see his face go pale. Maya, the meter's hissing. There's a leak. My stomach dropped. What do you mean there's a leak? He stood, grabbed my shoulders. His voice was urgent, but controlled. Listen to me carefully. Do not go inside. Do not turn on any lights. Don't touch your phone. Don't do anything that could create a spark. Gas has been filling your house. One spark and the whole thing could blow. My family. Panic clawed at my throat. My family's inside. They're sleeping. I know. I'm calling 911 right now. Then we're getting them out. He already had his phone out, finger steady as he dialed. 911, what's your emergency? Gas leak at 2847 Cypress Street in Sherman. Major leak at the meter. Family inside. We're evacuating now, but you need fire and gas company here immediately. He rattled off details while jogging to his Tahoe, popping the trunk, pulling out a flashlight. His hands moved with purpose, no hesitation, like he'd done this before. Maya, which window is your parents' room? I pointed, numb with fear. Back left corner, ground floor. Marcus and Lily. Marcus is front right, Lily's next to my parents. He was already running. I followed, legs shaking. He went to my parents' window first, using the flashlight to tap firmly on the glass. Nothing. He tapped harder. Finally, a shadow moved. My dad's face appeared, confused and annoyed. Ethan put a finger to his lips, then made frantic hand gestures. Come outside. Emergency. No lights. My dad's expression shifted from annoyed to alarmed. He disappeared. Seconds crawled by. Then the front door opened, and my parents stumbled out in pajamas, Dad carrying Lily, who was half asleep, Mom pulling Marcus by the arm. What's happening? Mom's voice was high, scared. Gas leak, ma'am, Ethan said, already herding us toward the street. Major one. We need to get at least 100 feet away, now. We made it to the end of the driveway just as sirens pierced the night. 2 fire trucks, an ambulance, and a police cruiser came screaming down Cypress Street, lights painting everything red and blue. Firefighters swarmed the house in full gear. The gas company truck arrived 3 minutes later. A technician ran to the meter with equipment, took one reading, and started yelling into his radio. A fire captain approached us. Who made the call? Ethan raised his hand. I did, sir. You did good, son. Real good. That leak's been going for hours, probably longer. Gas was concentrated enough inside that if anyone had flipped a light switch, touched a phone charger, even created static electricity from walking on carpet. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. My mom grabbed Ethan and pulled him into a hug so fierce I heard him grunt. She was crying, saying thank you over and over in Mandarin and English all jumbled together. Dad shook Ethan's hand for a solid minute, jaw clenched, eyes wet. You saved my family, son. You understand that? You saved my children. Ethan looked uncomfortable with the attention. I smelled it and I knew we had to act fast. How did you know? The fire captain asked. Most people wouldn't notice until it was too late. Most teenagers sure wouldn't. Something flickered across Ethan's face. Pain, old and deep. My mom died in a house fire 2 years ago. Faulty DAS line in the basement. She was doing laundry when it ignited. I was at practice. Came home to fire trucks and police tape. The world stopped spinning. Every word he'd said, every laugh we'd shared that night, suddenly held so much more weight. He'd been carrying this enormous grief and hadn't said a word. And now, faced with the exact scenario that killed his mother, he hadn't frozen. He'd saved us. I walked over to him, took his hand. He looked down at me, and in his eyes I saw everything he'd been holding back. The fear, the memories, The trauma of losing his mom and nearly watching it happen again. "You saved us," I whispered. "You saved my whole family." His voice cracked. I couldn't let it happen again. I pulled him into a hug and felt him shake. This boy who'd been so steady, so strong just minutes ago, finally letting himself break.
The gas company fixed the leak within an hour. Turns out a corroded pipe had been slowly releasing gas into the crawl space, seeping up through the floorboards. The tech said we were incredibly lucky. Another few hours and the concentration would have reached critical levels. A single spark from an alarm clock, a refrigerator compressor, anything could have killed us all in our sleep. We couldn't go back inside until the house had been ventilated and checked by inspectors. My family ended up at my aunt's house across town. Ethan drove us there, refusing to leave until he knew we were settled. Dad offered him money, food, anything. Ethan just shook his head. "Sir, your daughter gave me the best night I've had since my mom died. Getting to keep her safe, that's payment enough." Over the next days, the story spread through Sherman like wildfire. Ethan became a hero all over again, but this time for something real, something that mattered beyond football. The local news interviewed him. He was quiet, humble, kept saying he just did what anyone would have done. But we all knew that wasn't true. I learned more about Ethan in the weeks after prom. His mom, Sarah Sawyer, had been a nurse at the regional hospital. She died instantly when the basement of their old house exploded. Ethan and his dad had been at his football practice. They came home to find their house gone, his mom gone, everything gone except each other. His dad had fallen apart, started drinking, lost his job. Ethan, just 15, had to become the adult. He got a part-time job at the hardware store, learned to cook, paid bills, kept them both afloat while maintaining perfect grades and playing quarterback. Everyone saw the golden boy athlete. Nobody saw the kid keeping his family from drowning. After prom, we became inseparable. Not just because he saved my life, but because we understood each other in a way most people our age couldn't. We'd both seen how fast everything can change, how fragile the things we take for granted really are. We dated through senior year. He got his full ride to Texas Tech. I got into UT Austin with a scholarship. We knew long distance would be hard, but we were willing to try. The summer before college, Ethan and his dad started a nonprofit, the Sawyer Foundation for Carbon Monoxide and Gas Safety. They raised money to install CO detectors in low-income homes across North Texas. Ethan became a spokesperson, telling his story and mine, making sure other families didn't suffer what his had. College tested us. The distance, the new people, the stress. We broke up sophomore year, got back together junior year, broke up again. It hurt every time, but we never stopped caring, never stopped being there when it mattered. After graduation, I got a job as a civil engineer in Dallas. Ethan finished his degree in fire science and became a fire investigator, specializing in gas-related incidents. He still visits schools, teaches kids about fire safety, makes sure his mom's death means something. We're not together anymore. Not like that. But we're family. Always will be. I was there when his dad finally got sober and celebrated 5 years clean. He was there when I got my engineering license. When Marcus graduated high school, Ethan showed up with a card and cash, because that's what big brothers do. Last month, on the 10-year anniversary of prom night, Ethan texted me at exactly 11 p.m. Chocolate shakes at the place on Texoma Parkway? I met him there. We sat in the parking lot like we were 17 again. Windows down, music low, milkshake sweating, condensation on the dashboard. "You ever think about that night?" I asked. "Every day," he said quietly. "It's the night that saved me as much as it saved you. I was drowning, Maya. Taking care of Dad, being the golden boy everyone expected, pretending I wasn't falling apart inside. Then prom happened, and I got to just be me for a few hours. And then the gas leak, and I got to turn the worst thing that ever happened to me into something good. I got to save people. I got to make my mom's death matter. I reached over and squeezed his hand. She'd be so proud of you. I think so too.
We sat in comfortable silence, watching cars pass on the highway. The boy who saved my life had grown into a man who saves lives for a living. The scared 17-year-old carrying impossible weight had become someone who helps others carry theirs. My family still lives in that yellow house on Cypress Street. They have 3 CO detectors now, all donated by the Sawyer Foundation. Every year on April 20th, my parents invite Ethan over for dinner. We sit around the same table where Marcus used to complain about my photo shoots, where Lily would giggle about boys, where Dad would lecture me about curfews. Ethan sits in the place of honor between my parents, and they treat him like the son they never had. Because in the ways that matter most, he is family. He's the reason we get to be a family at all. So if you're reading this and wondering whether heroes are real, I'm here to tell you they are. Sometimes they look like star quarterbacks with easy smiles. Sometimes they're carrying trauma so heavy you can't imagine how they stand. Sometimes they're both.
And sometimes they smell gas when no one else does and refuse to let history repeat itself. That's the power of one person who cares, one person who pays attention, one person who's been through hell and decides that nobody else should have to burn. I'm 28 now. Ethan's 29. We've lived whole lives since that prom night. But I'll never forget the moment he stopped in my driveway, tilted his head, and smelled something wrong. The moment he chose to act instead of assume. The moment he saved 4 lives because someone he loved had taught him the signs before losing her own. My story could have ended in an explosion that erased my family from existence. Instead, it's a story about second chances, about trauma transformed into purpose, about a boy who went to prom and came home a hero. Family isn't always the people you're born with. Sometimes it's the person who makes sure you wake up the next morning, the person who turns their worst nightmare into your salvation. That's Ethan Sawyer. That's my prom date. That's my hero. And that's the truth I carry with me every single day.